The Silence of Bodhi Creek. By J. W. Steele. Bodhi Creek was a place of forgotten mystery, a stretch of scrubland hidden beneath pewter skies where the sun rarely shined. In the midst of this forgotten wilderness sat a dilapidated single-wide, leaning against the wind like a lost and weathered hovel. Surrounding the trailer was a scatter of discarded relics, an old worn-out tractor with metal wheels, rusting bicycle frames twisted like skeletal remains, a toppled stove sprouting weeds through its burners, and a collection of worn tires. It was a graveyard of forgotten utilities, a testament to entropy. Inside the trailer lived a man, solitary and still as the gnarled tree by his window. His name was Calum, a name as ancient as the hills, though he had long stopped thinking of names. For Calum, thinking was the fetter that bound his mind to misery. His kin had settled in Bodhi Creek since before the Civil War. 10 generations had lived and died there, and he was the last of his clan. Calum was a simple man content to live amidst the remains of his ancestors, all of which the world never knew or cared about. Calum had become a Buddha, though he knew not the word, nor the weight it carried, and he couldn't care less. Life, in this forgotten dust bowl, had worn him down until only the moment mattered. He had no need for words, and had no one to share them with even if he did. If forced to express his mind he spoke in single sentences, his speech sparse and deliberate, like pebbles dropped into a quiet pond. When he wasn't gathering berries, or tending his garden, Calum sat. He sat for hours, sometimes days, his breath steady, as the rhythm of the earth. When Calum stilled his thoughts, his mind dissolved like water leaking from a fractured crock. He preferred silence to the chaos that had once haunted him, the unrelenting monkey mind, that swung wildly from fear to desire. In stillness, he found the nothing, that consumed him, mind and body fell off, until only that, which cannot be understood, remained. One morning, the horizon shimmered, with a trail of metal and glass. Cars parked in the sprawling field below, their engines rumbling faintly, against the backdrop of the crows, cawing in the distance. People emerged, their faces alight, with a peculiar reverence. They wore flowing robes, patchwork cloaks, and mismatched shoes. Some carried flowers, others burned sticks of incense that trailed curling smoke. A few inhaled deeply from hookahs, their skulls shrouded beneath dark hoods, their eyes glazed, in mystic haze. They arranged themselves in circles, their bodies, contorted into grotesque postures, and chanting mantras, in strange, guttural tones. Calum opened the door, his gaze sweeping the field, like a breeze brushing tall grass. He stepped onto the dry earth, his bare feet silent as shadows. The crowd hushed, their eyes wide, as if they beheld a god descending from the heavens. Calum stood there for a long moment, unmoving, detached. The scent of burnt sage mixed with the faint tang of gasoline hung in the cool air. The only sound was the drone of the mantras humming in the meadow. Finally, Calum spoke. His voice was soft, but it carried as though the earth itself lent him its resonance. "Why are you here?" A woman in a white robe stood, her face radiant with fervor. "Master," she said, "we have heard of your holiness, and come, seeking enlightenment. We know of your silence, your wisdom. Please, teach us the way." Calum's expression did not change. He looked past her. His eyes resting on the horizon. "Look, lady. The only way I know, is out of here. Follow the path right behind you. When you hit the road, turn left, and go back to where you came from." The crowd murmured, their anticipation tinged with confusion. A man with a braided beard, and Kool-Aid hair, stepped forward, clutching a book, filled with scribbled symbols. "Master. Surely, you hold secrets beyond our grasp," he said. "Reveal them to us, and we shall follow." Calum sat cross-legged on the ground, his posture as natural as the stones by the creek. He gazed at the crowd, his silence stretching, long and taut. Then, in his deliberate manner, he said, "Here is my sermon for today. Go home. The murmuring grew louder, a ripple of discontent running through the crowd. "But master," the woman implored, "we have journeyed far. We have sacrificed much to be here." Calem's gaze did not waver. "You sacrifice to gain. You gain to lose." The Kool-Aid man frowned, his faith wavering. "You speak in riddles, master. How shall we transcend if we do not learn?" Calem reached down and picked up a handful of dust, letting it sift through his fingers. "Be dust," he said. "Be nothing." The crowd's confusion turned to frustration. A young man in a tattered jacket shouted, "This is nonsense. You're a fraud, Calem. A first-class charlatan." Calem met the young man's glare with serene indifference. "Yes," he said. He remained silent for a moment and then blurted. "You want the great secret. I'll give it to you for nothing." He opened his arms and proclaimed, "It's always, just like this." The man, in the tattered jacket, looked confused. "What the hell is that supposed to mean, old man? You call that truth? Any child knows that." Calem's eyes softened, a flicker of relief sparkled on his face. "Yes," he said, "they do." The admission left the crowd stunned. Slowly, the weight of his words began to seep in, not as revelation, but as an echo of the ordinary. One by one, they turned away, their fervor unraveling into quiet introspection. The cars rumbled to life, and the Kool-Aid man's motorcycle roared. The field emptied, as the disciples departed, carrying the strange truth back into their lives. Calem remained seated, the faint scent of incense lingering in the air. He watched as the last car disappeared over the horizon, leaving behind only the whispering wind and the chirping crickets. The field returned to its natural state, wild and untamed. Alone once more, Calem closed his eyes. The world fell away, and the silence returned, vast and unbroken. In that infinite quiet, Calem thought, "It's just, as you always said, Grandma, Bodhi. It's always, just like this. Can't be no different, no how."